I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume. So I'm skipping around a bit as I move along. So we've been reading in the Gospels. Christ is now in Galilee because those in Jerusalem are still seeking to kill him. We are nearing the end of the first year of Christ's ministry, and he is now kind of based out of Capernaum. He's been rejected in Nazareth multiple times. He's gone to the eastern side of Galilee, but was asked to leave after casting the devil into the swine. And he's done many miracles. We've read a couple of his discourses and a number of his parables, and we've read all this. This is all good stuff. Now, our last reading, he has sent the 12 apostles out on their individual missions. Probably out in pairs, because he usually sends people out in companionships. But up to this point, the apostles, along with other disciples, have been traveling with Christ. Now they are being sent out on their own. They're being given power over the spirits. They've been given power to heal, to cast out devils, all the good stuff, and authority to preach the gospel. That's what we read last in Matthew chapter 10. Now, we are going to look at the Joseph Smith translation for this. Matthew chapter 10, verses 5 through 42. And what does the Joseph Smith translation have for us here? I'll say most of it is minor grammatical updates. So starting off, verse 5, that last clause, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not. Well, we just switch it around, and Joseph Smith corrects, and enter ye not into any city of the Samaritans. Minor correction. In verse 6, but go rather, is corrected to, but rather go. In verse 11, the towns and cities are inverted, so instead of whatsoever city or town, it is whatsoever town or city. Now, verse 14 does have this addition to the end where it says, depart out of that house or city, shake off the dust of your feet, and then Joseph Smith adds, for a testimony against them. Not sure that's much of a profound statement, but you are declaring that they are unworthy. By shaking the dust off your feet, you are declaring them unworthy. Now, verse 15, simply add the word and to the beginning. So, verily I say unto you becomes, and verily I say unto you. In verse 16, wise as serpents and harmless as doves is corrected to, therefore, be therefore wise serpents and as harmless as doves. It's an interesting correction, Joe. It's not be as wise as serpents, but be wise serpents. And this reminds me of Jordan Peterson, where he says you need to be a monster and then learn how to control it. And that's really what it sounds like Christ is saying here. Be serpents. Be the cunning, the wise, the dangerous ones. But then make yourself as harmless as a dove. Not a very profound change, but I like it. Verse 22, it says, and ye shall be hated of all men, corrected, hated of all the world. In verse 23, where it says, when they shall persecute you in this city, correction to in one city, flee into another, it makes a lot of sense there. And at the end, till the Son of Man be come, is corrected to the Son of Man come. In verse 24, we add the word remember at the beginning, so it's now remember the disciple is not above his master. So he's taught this principle before. You can't be above me. I'm the master. I am the Son of God. I'm a member of the Trinity. Can't be above me, but you can be like me. And so he's saying, remember what I've already taught you here. I like the addition, but it's not exactly an earth-shattering revelation. In verse 25, it is enough for the disciples that he be as his master. Corrected to, it is enough that the disciple be as his master. Simple correction, simple minor clarification. In verse 27, we have, instead of that speak ye in light, it is preach ye in light. And in the end there, instead of that preach ye upon the housetops, it is just preach ye upon the housetops. In verse 28, we have the correction here, instead of, and fear not them which kill the body, we have the correction, and fear not them which are able to kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul. In verse 29, that last clause, and one of them shall not fall on the ground without your Father. Now that doesn't make a lot of sense, but we have this addition. And one of them shall not fall on the ground without your Father knoweth it. So God knows even when a sparrow falls. Verse 30, we simply change but to and. In verse 32, at that last clause, we change which to who. And again in verse 33, we change which to who. In verse 34, instead of I came not to send peace, it is I come not to send peace. And in verse 36 says, and a man's foes shall be, is corrected to, and a man's foes will be. In verse 37, we change the that to who, in both cases. He that loveth father, and he that loveth son, is he who loveth father, and who loveth son. In verse 38, we again change that to who. He that taketh not is he who taketh not. And in verse 39, we have a little bit more significance here. So in the King James, it says, he that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. But we have the correction, he who seeketh to save his life shall lose it, and he who loseth his life for my sake shall find it. Now the way it was, I think, was understandable, but this definitely clarifies it, makes it easier to understand. Now in verse 40, the three instances of that are changed to who again. He that receiveth is he who receiveth. Him that sent me is him who sent. Just grammatical updates. Now in verse 41, I think this might be a misprint on the part of the one who compiled this into a book here, because all it does is it takes verse 42 and put it as part of verse 41. There's no, I can't find any change in actual wording. It's just they combine the verses for some reason. They don't even inverse the order. So I think that might just be a misprint in the book, the Joseph Smith translation that I have. That's a little interesting. But nothing real earth-shattering in meaning here. No new doctrine being, and none of the what is doctrine being taught, none of it's being altered. It's being clarified at points, and the grammar is being updated. But that's all. So we leave that here, and I believe our next video will once again combine multiple Gospels. So I will see you there.